Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, wherever you're listening. It's the Salute to Troy podcast, and we are back. It's 2/3 of the Bearded Bandit, and Jamal, I cut my beard. I had decided to go with the goatee. I felt like this was the more threatening coach's look. But I'm after Shadow right now. I'm in the middle of camp, so I'll let it go as long as it can until it's time for team pictures. But Jamal, it's football season is on the horizon. We're back. It's me, the Madman's. The Madman is here. Fans, we are here. How are you doing, Madman? Long time no see. Happy football season.
Happy football season, Coach. So great to see you. So great to be doing this. Absolutely. We're 2/3 of the Bearded Bandits. Our third Bearded Bandit is going to join us later this week. And we're second week of August. So now we're getting into that full season routine here, with the Bearded Bandits. And, of course, we got the Call-In Show with Tim that you were so great on last week. And I think maybe it's the Conquest Quartet. Coach on LAFB,
like
the four of us kind of rotating different shows for LAFB. I think it's going to be fantastic, but so great to kind of get the OGs back together here, Coach. And my goodness, it is only about 16 or 17 days until kickoff, and it's a sight for sore eyes after, the last game being in December. My goodness, it's been 8 months. And we can sort of put, even though it was such great recruiting news over the course of the year and what a banner job SC has done for 2026, we can put a little bit of the recruiting news to the side and talk actual football 2025 season and get into the analysis. And so it's exciting, man. We're back in it. And so happy to be doing this with you as always.
Nothing's better than talking ball. Nothing is better than talking the ball. And we're going to jump right into it. Oh, I do have to ask you this question. And just to let you know, what are we, about 5 months away from the Victory Vale crossover show?
Yeah.
We're about 5 months away. So I get to hang out with my man Will the Thrill. Shout out Will the Thrill. The Side Guys. Shout out to the Side Guys. Like the whole LA, it's like an LAFB reunion. You know what I mean?
No question.
All back. Yeah. So we're talking football. We're ready to talk football. Guess what came out today? The numbers on the paper. The numbers on the paper came out today. Everybody got excited. I was kind of surprised. Penn State is probably back at the top. They're number 2 in the nation. The Big Ten is it, right? Like everybody was wondering why SC jumped to the Big Ten. It's starting to look like it was a really good decision. I should say SC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, right? It's starting to look like a really good decision. I will say this, and here's my hot take. I don't see a threat of super conferences because of conference rivalry, right? And the reason why I say that, we know the ACC is on live support. Cool. Let's not talk about the ACC. But I will say this. I think that the SEC is trying to figure out what happened, and they're trying to get back to dominance, and the Big Ten is trying to figure out how to stay at the top, right? It's the ebbs and flow thing. It happens in all the markets. We're the Modelo, right, Bud Light type thing. And I think the Big 12 is always going to be there because of that region supports it so well. And I think they're good with being third, but if they sneak up every now and then, they're happy with it. But then they're like, at least we have a conference, right? I can see 3 big conferences being in our future. I was worried about the big super conference, the East, West, the top teams and this and that. But I think these 3 are going to be the ones that we're going to see until we're old, I guess. Like we have grandkids. We're like, oh, we knew this was coming. Like, let me show you something, sweetheart. We're showing our grandkids. Let me show you something. We talked about this a long time ago. But right now, I think the 3 are there to stay. What do you think about that, man, before we jump into these AP polls?
Yeah, Coach, it's an interesting take. It's logic would dictate that at some point you're going to sort of converge to some sort of a system. But I think we're still sort of in a period of a lot of transition and volatility. And I'm not willing to rule out the Big 2 just yet. I think a lot is going to depend on what happens now in 2026, right? We know for sure we've got a 12-team playoff in 2025. It's going to follow the format of last year. But then what happens in 26? How many teams? Are there going to be automatic qualifiers? What's the seating going to be like? What's the structure going to be like? And I think that in many ways is going to ultimately dictate what the conference alignment is, along with how many years do you sign up for this new structure, right? There's conversation. Are we going to 14 teams in 26? Are we going to 16 teams in 26? Are there going to be automatic qualifiers, right? We've talked about this quite a bit in the offseason, where USC's position is on automatic qualifiers being the Big Ten, where a team like Notre Dame's position is on automatic qualifiers not being in a conference. So I think a lot, coach, is going to be dictated on what happens to next year's structure. And then I foresee a scenario where at least next year's structure could potentially have an 8 to 10 year run, the way the 4-team playoff had an 8 to 10 year run, starting in 2014.
Yeah, I got you. Like, and I'm not saying that the Super 2 or the Big 2 is never coming. I just think that we could put our minds at ease for it right now. And we can at least put it on the back burner, like, it's not coming anytime soon. Can we give a 10-year hiatus on it?
That's bold. I mean, because
when you think about it, though, we're talking 2035. That's 2 Olympics, right? Like 2 presidents, like that goes pretty fast. You know what I mean? We started this 3 years ago. We're going on year number 3 right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no. I mean, time flies. I think, to your point, I think, Coach, without going veering too far off of what SC's national perception is. This is why I love having the conversation with you. But I think so much of it is going to dictate, what does Florida State, Clemson, Miami do, right? Like if those 3 kind of get absorbed by the SEC, for instance, or if 2 of those 3 go SEC and 1 somehow goes to the Big Ten, then now you're in a position where it's pretty clearly a Big 2. Right, because the rest of the ACC is a step below pretty clearly in terms of football. You look at the Big 12 now without Texas and Oklahoma, they're still kind of a step below. So I think in many ways that Florida State, Clemson, Miami, what those 3 end up doing, I think is going to ultimately dictate this structure. Because if they can stay in the ACC, you have a nice 3rd conference. If they don't, now you're really going to converge to a Big 2, in my opinion.
Got you. Before we get started, you got to go try the Waterloo. You can't see it. This one?
I see it. I see it. I saw it for a second. There it is. There we go.
Raspberry nectarine. Amazing. Try that one. We're sparkling water junkies, bro.
Yes, sir.
That one's pretty good.
Waterloo. Okay. I love my LaCroix. I love my Spindrift. So, that's my Big 2, Coach. That's my SEC and Big 10 of sparkling water. Now you're throwing Waterloo in there, the ACC of sparkling water.
This flavor right here is giving a run in the playoff, bro.
Ooh, okay.
And I will tell you this: if you're in a pinch, and I just learned this, if you're in a pinch, you're like, man, I just want some sparkling water. Good and Gather from Target, $4 for an 8-pack, and they're pretty good too. I'm just saying. I've been out there. I try them all. Man.
Dropping those nuggets. We know what Coach has been doing the last 8 months since in the offseason.
Yeah, good deal. All right, so the AP rankings come out, and there's a team missing on the AP rankings that are watching this show. Our fans aren't happy about it. SC did not make the AP top 25. I'm a reference Tim Pringley's show that I was on the other day, and I told him we're about 24 months away from being a national name again. And I will say this. You believe in the 4-year change, right? You're going to get upset because I'm coming up with an excuse, but I don't think people really understood how bad it really was. I think it was worse than what it portrayed to be. And I think this was truly a rebuild. I'm just being honest. Like, we're 3 years behind on hiring all these people with all these titles, right? We're just now getting them. That's a big deal, Jamal. Like everybody else has them. Why don't we have them? And it makes a difference, like we're just now getting another new facility. And we remember the first facility with Coach Carroll, it took forever to build. Now we're getting another new facility. I just really don't. And I will say this, we are building the wall around California now, right? We're building the wall around California, which we asked for. But I think it was more messed up than people think. And I think this project wasn't a 4-year project. I think this was truly a 6-year project. And I do think we're about 24 months away. And this not being in the top 25 makes sense to me. Like, I knew we weren't going to be ranked. And when it was like, oh, the rankings came out, I expected this to be between 20 and 25. And the question was going to be, okay, we're going to play the same song and same dance. we're going to go on this run. We're going to make the top 10. And then all of a sudden we're going to get knocked down and we're going to be playing in San Diego again. That's kind of the expectation for the next 2 years. A lot of people are getting excited about this 26 class, but this 26 class isn't going to jump in and make a change in a year. Like, these are 18-year-old kids playing against 23 and 24-year-old kids, right? And then we got the whole portal thing and that whole mixed match thing. Long story short, I'm not shocked. We're not there yet. And I'm okay with not being there yet. I have to accept not being there yet. The question is, and it's always going to be the question, is Lincoln Riley the right person to be there with? And I think that still is, the jury's still out on that one. And I think the fact that he shot way out of his class the first year, now everybody's expecting that. He's always going to be on the hot. Well, SC coaches are always on the hot seat, right? No matter what. But the question is Lincoln Riley the guy for it, right? It's starting to look like, you're going to be shocked when I say that, it's starting to look like he is the guy. Maybe he was the one in there pounding the desk saying, hey, Jen, we need this. We need this. We need this. If you want us to compete and you want us to be the guy and you wanted us to be back in contention, this is what we need. And all of a sudden we're starting to get it. So I still stand on that 24 months. I'm not shocked that we're not in the top 25. We may get in it. We may go up to 10. But, when we go through that bulk of the schedule, we may drop out again. But that's just where we are for the next 2 years. I think we're at the place where we have to accept it. Now, in 2 years, we can't accept that. You know what I mean? Like, okay, now it's time for change. You got all this stuff. You got it implemented. Let's go. What do you think?
Coach, it's such a loaded conversation here. I mean, I really agree with a lot of what you're saying in terms of the framing. There's just so much to unpack, right? And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Number one is, I agree with you. I think sometimes we always think about USC as a blue blood, as they rightfully are historically, and we just expect to be a blue blood year in and year out. And so anyone that sort of comes in, you're expecting things to turn around fairly quickly. And I think, to your point, everyone sort of remembers 2022 being that 11-3 year. The ball bounced our way a ton. Bunch of transfers that came in, probably played above their level, and then kind of the bottom fell out at the end of that season between the Pac-12 championship game and then the bowl game against Tulane. But that almost set some unfair expectations potentially in the next couple of years for Lincoln. And I think we forget that, look, 2021 was 4-8, with the Helton year. And then we sort of forget that 2018 was 5-7. I mean, it's sort of incomprehensible, Coach, to think that in a 4-year period, USC missed a bowl game 2 out of 4 years. I mean, in terms of 2 full seasons. I mean, that's absolutely shocking. So I think the evidence suggests that, hey, look, even though it was USC and, the men of Troy in terms of the helmets and in terms of the uniforms and in terms of being able to play in the Coliseum, this perhaps was not the USC that we came to be accustomed to. And there needs to be more of a runway for Lincoln Riley. So I think there's a lot of credence to what you're saying there, Coach. I think the other interesting piece is, and I think where the perception is so interesting right now nationally, USC not in the top 25. I think that's fair right now because last year's season was 7-6. Obviously, USC set the sport on fire over the course of this offseason. But it was all about 2026 recruiting, right? And so whether we argue about, hey, can you even make an impact? How many guys are going to make impact in year one? How many guys are going to make impact moving forward? That's still year one is 2026. All of the recruiting splashes aren't going to help you this year, right? And so I think that's where I think the narrative element maybe is a little bit outsized relative to what you want to do, particularly this year. So I think it's fair. But I think there's tremendous opportunity because USC flying a little bit under the radar. They're this giant mystery going into 2025. And to your point, Coach, 5 Big Ten teams in the top 14 preseason. When you look at Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois, and Michigan, 5 in the top 14. SC is going to play 4 top 14 teams. When you factor in, you got Oregon, you got Notre Dame, you got Illinois, you got Michigan. So there's going to be a ton of opportunity to showcase just how close they are. But it's fascinating, Coach, that the national perception is such a mystery. Heather Dinich of ESPN talked about USC and Lincoln Riley. Lincoln feeling tremendous pressure going into 2025, but she wouldn't go as far as saying that Lincoln's on the hot seat. Then you got Josh Pate, who has spoken at length about USC in the offseason, talking about how he was procrastinating his sort of, season projection for USC just because he was so conflicted. And he sort of ran his model. And he said, the floor is 5-7. The ceiling is 12-1. So I'm going to call it 8-4 because I genuinely am not sure what team we're going to get here. So there's such an element of mystery, Coach, around this team that I think starting unranked is going to be a benefit because they can fly under the radar. And when you couple that with a really soft September, right? You got these two borderline FBS teams that you're opening with. You got one win Purdue. You got a Michigan State team that's still finding itself before you get into October. I mean, that should pretty easily be 4-0 with a lot of momentum going into the meat of the schedule. So all to say, Coach, I agree with you. I think this roster is going to have to sort of prove a lot of things. And that 2026 class, how much of an impact are they going to make in 2026 is the big question. But at the same time, I think we're looking at a 2-year window here for Lincoln Riley to truly prove himself. But the other, I think, interesting element, Coach, why this is sort of a 2-year window is look what's happening with the larger university at USC. New president is going to come in next summer. Yeah. And so I think it's really important that SC either has a big year in 25 or 26. Because when you're coming in as a new president and you might not have that historical connection to USC. You might not be a Trojan. You might be sort of coming in as an outsider, looking at the organization very objectively. You're seeing a university outside of football that's $200 million in debt. You're seeing a university with football that's sort of on fire with recruiting, with facilities, paying $100 million coach. You're going to say, hey, those are two different worlds. Those are two different USCs. Am I okay with that? And I think if you don't experience for yourself the vibe and the energy of having a winner on campus where students and young alumni and everyone feels that energy the way we did in the 2000s, you wonder where the president is going to go with things moving forward. So I agree with you. It's the great unknown the next 24 months. But at the same time, that 24 months is extremely pivotal because of what it means for Lincoln Riley, but also, Coach, what it means for Danton Lynn, what it means for Doug Belk, what it means for a lot of these young superstar coaches who you got to wonder if they do a really good job the next couple of years, are they going to stay? And so that's where I think it's such a fascinating storyline where they're the mystery for the next 24 months, but you also got to kind of hit it in the next 24 months if you want to be able to sustain.
Do you think, and I think it might be a little bit longer, and correct me with the dates, but do you think SC's kind of going through that dry spell that Texas went through? Do you think this job is starting to become like unhireable, if that makes sense? At one point, Texas was like, if you took the Texas job, it was kind of career suicide, right? After Mac Brown, it went from Charlie Strong, I believe.
Yep.
It was Charlie Strong. And then after Charlie Strong, it was
the guy from Houston.
The guy from Houston. Yeah, I can't think of his name right now. And then they got rid of the guy from Houston, and then that's when Sark came in. But that was like, what, a 10 to 8 year period, give or take. And it looks like we're kind of going through this right now. Like, we had our ebbs and flows with Kiffin and Sark. I still believe to this day that Sark would have turned it around if that would have not happened. This is my opinion. But after Sark, we go with Helton. Helton crashed it. Now we're on Lincoln Riley. Like it looks like we're in that period right now where it's like the job is unwantable. Like, people don't really want it. We can't figure out what's going on. It looks like that tactic streak. Like, then you hire Sark and you make a big splash. I think NIL had a little bit to do with it, but I think Sark would have been okay regardless. Like, because Sark's been successful to me everywhere he's been. Do you think we're in that point right now? Do you think it's in a period we have to just kind of hold water and it's coming? And it goes to the point, is Lincoln Riley the guy, or do we have to make a move, right?
I think, Coach, it comes down to Lincoln Riley here these next 2 years because, the narrative can swing so quickly, right? He's been 3 years on the job, 11 wins to 8 wins to 7 wins, but had a bang up first year, right? Caleb wins the Heisman, and then things have gone a little bit south. He's learned in terms of being able to hire the right defensive coordinator, the right coaching staff, emphasize offensive and defensive line, emphasize player development, strength and conditioning, emphasize now having really a professional recruiting organization in a front office. So he's emphasizing all of this. If he comes in this year and the ball bounces USC's way, a handful of plays, and year 4 becomes a great year, and now that becomes a springboard to tremendous success in 26 and beyond, then, this is every bit the job that it's supposed to be. Lincoln Riley is every bit the guy that he was supposed to be when he came in and said this is going to be the Mecca of college football. And so all is well with the world. If, on the other hand, this is another transitional year of 7 wins, 8 wins, and particularly Maeva doesn't play that well. Maeva's above average at times, below average at times, and we get the seesaw with Maeva. Now you're going into year 5, coach, in 2026, where Lincoln has 3 straight subpar seasons. But I think more importantly, he has 2 consecutive years where he doesn't get great quarterback play, right? Like last year with Miller Moss, and potentially if it's a wobbly year with Maeva, now all of a sudden the quarterback whisperer isn't whispering. And so, when you go into 2026 year 5, I think it's going to be a tremendous hot seat for Lincoln at that point, because if 26 then doesn't go to plan, now you're back to the drawing board, because you're saying, look, we paid $100 million. We have the best coaching staff. We have this incredible recruiting front office, and we're still not winning. Then I think you're in a position to say, hey, what's really going on here? But I think until that happens, if that happens, I think you're still okay. And here's the thing, coach. He's got 2 years. I think it's 25 and 26 just by nature of the buyout. This is just such a massive buyout right now. And no interim president of the university is going to sign off on him getting that buyout if things don't work out this year. And so the coupled with the amount of the buyout, given who's leading the university right now, given what else is going on with the university from a debt standpoint, like how do you sell that the rest of the university is $200 million in debt, but we're going to pay our football coach $70 million to not coach us anymore so we can go buy another coach? None of that jives out. So to me, it's 25 and 26 that Lincoln gets. And we talked about that at the end of last year. And now, depending on what he can do with that, this thing is either going to soar, and these last couple of years are going to look like a speed bump in his career, or it's not. And we're going to sort of look at his career very differently as like Oklahoma Lincoln Riley versus USC Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, see, and when I count the 24 months, I'm counting 26, 27. I'm not even counting this year, like, because we know what this year is going to be, right? Like, we're realistic. We're talking realistic expectations. I'm talking 27 is the year. You know what I mean? Like, and 27 will be what, year 6? Year 6 in his contract. Like I'm talking. That's what I'm saying. It's going to take 6. It took 6 years to turn this thing around. And to me, the reason why I say it's 6, and there's just a lot of things that's popping out of me. Like I said before, like I don't think people understood how bad this really was.
Right.
Like I think it was really, really bad behind the scenes, and nobody knows behind the scenes, and I don't know behind the scenes. And like we have some sources that are inside, and they're kind of, they tell us some things, but it's just like I don't think people really know. I think this was a complete rebuild, and it's going to take longer than expected. And I think he'll be there in 27. And I think 27 is the year. And if we don't see change in 27, he won't make it through the whole year, which will be year 6, paying $40 million. I didn't know about the $200 million in debt, which makes no sense. And we could easily get out of $200 million in debt. We just got to call our buddy Rick. Rick can get us out of that. They must have made Rick mad. But no, like, I think and then if you fire them halfway, that 40 million isn't a true 40 million, right? It turns into a prorated rate, and you get about 32, which isn't the end of the world, But I think 27 has to be the year. Like year 6 has to be the year. I know we rushed them before, but like I said, man, I don't want to sound like a record, but I think it was worse than we thought. Like I think this thing was like not Pete Carroll. I don't think it was Sark when Sark was there when it was a lot better. I think they made changes, and you know what I think it was? Let me tell you this. I think because of all the violations, and I've heard this before, and I think because of all the violations, they're always like, all right, let's not put our foot on the gas. Let's do this the right way, because they'll hit us with violations. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get the slap on the hand. Right. We get the full whooping, right? And let's do this the right way. And I think they researched it and did it the right way. And I think they were a little bit late to the party. Now we got to get, if we count this year, we got to give it 25, 26, 27 for this thing to work completely the right way with the money. Like now all of a sudden the money's starting to flow in for NIL. Where did this come from, right? We've been asking for 3 years. Where's the money? Where's the money? Now the money's flowing in for NIL, right? Now we're getting all these hires. Like we're getting a good GM. We're getting everything we need. So it's going to take time to mix. It's like when you make chili, right? When you make chili the first day, you're like, oh, this is good chili. Then you go back 2 days later, like, oh yeah, I made that chili. Like, oh man, I really did it with that chili. Like, I think it's going to take time for this to come to fruition. The problem is, you know this, I know this. We live in one of the worst sports markets in the world, and our fans are patient. Our fans are expecting national champions. And I hate to say this, but Will the Thrill might be right. We might be the Dallas Cowboys of college football. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is our year. This is our year. And like, we have to sit back and really look. This isn't our year. Our year is not anytime soon. And if it happens, we're not saying like, we're going to be like, well, we were wrong. Like, if it happens, we're going to celebrate it. We're going to go through it, and we're going to figure out what we have to do next year to keep it going. But if you really sit down and look, this is not our year, and we don't have it. So we are in the right place when it comes to the rankings. We just have to figure out in 27, how do we get to the playoff? How do we make a national championship run? And how do we sustain it?
Yeah, Coach. I mean, there's a lot there for sure. And the one thing I'll say is, let's just talk 25 for a second. And the schedule breaks pretty good. Okay. You know, when you look at this schedule, when you look at what the September slate looks like, to me, there's only 3 games on this schedule that I'm really worried about. And it's at Oregon, it's at Notre Dame, and I think that at Illinois game is going to be really tough. I think at Nebraska, you know, that's a tough game, a tough environment. I think we can manage it. I think everything else we get at home. We don't play Ohio State this year. We don't play Penn State this year. You know, so we're in a pretty good spot schedule-wise. And so if you can just win the games that you're supposed to, if you can just beat the Iowas and you can beat the Nebraskas and you can win those mid-tier games, you're potentially sitting at 9-3, right on the line, you know, with a 12-team college football playoff. Look, there was a 9-3 team that made it last year. You might just barely be out, barely be in, but there's an opportunity where as long as you can just win your mid-tier games, you could be sitting there at 9-3 with a tremendous opportunity to sort of break into the college football playoff. So I'm not ready to declare defeat yet, Coach, on the 2025 season. I think there's questions right now about the offensive line, particularly with the DJ Wingfield situation. And I think the defensive line has so much upside relative to last year, but we got to see it on the field. We got to be able to see it. A lot of unproven guys. When you talk about John Jarrett, when you talk about Keyshawn Silver, you know, it's unproven. You know, can Anthony Lucas stay healthy? Is Cam Fountain going to make that next jump? Is Devin Tompkins going to make that next jump? So a lot of questions there. If you hit yes on most of them, you have an opportunity to go 9-3 in 2025. And even if you don't make the college football playoff, but you go 9-3, potentially win a bowl game, get to 10-3, I think that buys Lincoln more time.
Yeah.
And then if you can sort of stay aligned in 26, then you're going into 27 with some momentum and really an opportunity to play for a national championship. So I think so much of this is going to depend also on the how, right? How is 25 and 26 going to play out? Not just from a result standpoint and a record standpoint. Obviously, those are going to be important, but how does this team look? And how do they look in the big games? And are they dropping games that they're not supposed to? And how is the quarterback playing? And I think so much of that is going to factor into, does Lincoln get an opportunity to get to year 6? Because if 25 and 26 look like last year in terms of 1 week the team looks this way, another week the team looks this way, even though played in a lot of close games, I think it's going to be really hard for him to get to 2027. But if the team is showing that, hey, we're winning those mid-tier games, the defense is continually improving, we're not wearing down in the second half, we're starting to look like a Big Ten team in the trenches, we're getting closer, then I think he's in a really good spot for 27. If not, I think it's going to be really, really difficult. And here's the other thing, Coach. We're talking about 27 as the year that this 26 recruiting class is going to be year 2, where they can really start making an impact. So you got to be able to retain this 26 class for them to be able to make that impact. But here's the other thing, Coach. You also got to be able to retain the coaches, because so much of recruiting today is, who's my position coach? Who's my coordinator? I'm coming to play for that guy. D'Anton Lynn spent 1 year at UCLA, got the big pay raise. He's 1 year at USC, almost got plucked by his alma mater, stayed, but you feel like D'Anton is very close to a head coaching job. If it's not this year, feels like next year, but it feels really close. Feels like Doug Belk is ready for the next step in his career. Feels like a lot of these young guys are ready for the next step in their career. So much of this, Coach, is going to also be, can Lincoln keep this nucleus together of players and coaches to be able to get to 27 while at the same time showing enough of an improved product in 25 and 26 to be able to do that? So he's got to be able to do both. That's where it gets really fascinating. Can he time it all together, or is he going to have the players but not the coaches? And he's going to have the coaches but not the players, or he's going to have the players and the coaches, but he runs out of runway because 25 and 26 doesn't look like a better team.
I like your new phrase, run out of runway.
Yeah.
I like that one. So I'm not worried about D'Anton Lynn leaving. I'm not worried about him leaving because I think he has a good support staff to where Lincoln Riley will have to make a decision. Am I going to go with Rob or am I going to go with Eric Henderson? That's my opinion. And I could be 100% wrong, but like we know D'Anton Lynn's going to leave. The question is when, right? We're not like, we have to be truthful with ourselves. So we know he's going to win. When he's going to leave, the question is who's it going to be? Is it going to be Henderson or is it going to be Rob? Right? And a lot of people are saying, well, we brought in Rob for when D'Anton Lynn leaves. I think the defensive staff would be really good. And I think Rob is a pro guy and he understands, like, okay, we recruited these guys to run this and we're going to run this. Like, I'm not going to change the whole defense, right? Kind of like the Detroit Lions when everybody's like, Ben Johnson left. Oh, my God, are the Lions going to be good? Yes, they're pros. They're going to hire people who call offense that fits the system. Just to let you guys know. So Lions are still going to be good. But I'm more concerned with players staying. That's a big deal, right? I'm more concerned with, here's a big one too, right? I don't want to get his name wrong, so I'm going to look it up. I can't find it. The GM. What is the GM's name?
Chad Bowden.
Chad Bowden. I'm more concerned with the NFL coming to get Chad Bowden. Those are now that's a question you have to ask, right? Like, how long do we have Chad Bowden for? Because when a guy walks in a year and all of a sudden he picks up every single top recruit in California, right? And then all of a sudden you got the number one recruiting class and everybody's wondering, like, well, why are all these California guys staying? There's a lot of factors into it, and I talked about them before, right? Like, pay to play. They don't have to leave anymore, right? But how long does Chad Bowden stay? That's a good question, right? We could live with D'Anton Lynn leaving because we got two guys who could replace him. But I don't think we could live with Chad Bowden leaving. I really don't. What do you think?
No, Coach, I mean, it's a really good point. The one thing I'll say is I think the organization has done a really nice job this offseason about thinking about succession planning, right? I mean, the reason you bring in a Rob, the reason you obviously had Coach Henderson from last year is you're thinking about, okay, who steps into that slot if and when D'Anton Lynn leaves. And I think the similar element happened in the front office, right? Like, what are the first few things that Chad Bowden did? He went and plucked Wisconsin's best recruiter. He went and plucked, one of the best recruiters in the Midwest. He went and plucked one of the best recruiters in the Northwest. And so you had multiple sort of young, hungry, 20-something rising stars in recruiting that he brought in. And presumably those guys are all going to soak up what Bowden is doing. And in the event that Chad Bowden leaves, and he probably will, he comes from an incredible family lineage. His father, coach, I'm sure you know this, youngest GM in the history of Major League Baseball at 31. So, he's obviously got huge aspirations, comes from a really big sports family. So you got to believe he's going to kind of play at the highest level at some point. But I think the organization's done a really nice job thinking about succession planning. Now, the question, Coach, of course, is what makes coaches special is that they're not that easy to replace. Like, you can have the best organization, you can have the best succession plan, but there's only one Nick Saban. There was only one Pete Carroll. Like, if you had the best organization, it's not like you can just replace those guys. And I'm not saying Lynn is that guy, and I'm not saying Bowden might be that guy already in terms of recruiting. I think that's really the challenge, right, Coach? Where if you think about Lynn, for instance, okay, you got Henderson and Rob Ryan coming in, waiting in the wings. Is Henderson ready to make that jump from defensive line coach to defensive coordinator? It's a question. He may very well be, but that's a pretty big jump. There's no guarantee. There's still some risk associated with that. Is Rob ready to step in back to a defensive coordinator role? Coach, Rob Ryan hasn't been a defensive coordinator in over 10 years. He's been a position coach. So is he ready to sort of step back into that role? I'm sure it's like riding a bike, but when you haven't ridden a bike in 10 years, it's not that seamless all the time. So there's risk there, as the case will be that there's going to be risk if and when Chad Bowden leaves down the line. So that's this game of Tetris to me. Can Lincoln show enough on the field to be able to get the runway so his coaches and his big-time recruits in the class of 2026 and beyond can actually make the impact on the field? Because even this class of 2026, Coach, as great as they are, how many true freshmen make a massive impact on the field for a particular team? Very, very few, if any. So it's really this 26 class is going to make their impact 27 and beyond. Riley's got to be able to get these 2 years to get there to be able to then take that next jump.
Yeah, and if if they stay top 5, then we're coming, right? As Dion would say, we're coming. They're right. They stay top 5 and they develop those guys the correct way. It's like, okay, we're back. We're the national championship team. Like, you know what I mean? We can always go back to what you say. How many years has it been since the national championship? 2004 was the last one.
Yeah.
Right. So we're 21 years. Right. These kids weren't even born yet. Right.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, now we have something to celebrate. It's like the Dodgers haven't won it since 36 years. Like, we're starting to go down that path. Like, we're looking at it. And I know college football is more of national championships are great, but as long as you're a competitor, you're doing the right thing. Right. But we have higher standards, and we're like national championship or bust every single year. And so we have to start thinking about that. Like, okay, what gets us back there? Right. And so like you said, the runaway shortness but to go on your comment of what you said, I think head coaches are hard to replace, but coordinators are easier to replace if you have a good program. Right. And we'll look at Nick Saban. Right. Nick Saban's hard to replace, but Kirby Smart was able to be replaced. Right. You go to Bill Belichick. Right. How many coordinators does he lose every year? But he was able to maintain his system. Same thing with Pete Carroll. Right. He was able to lose coordinators, but if your program and your culture is good, you kind of start to create your theory, and those guys go off and they become head coaches and create the same thing. Like, so I'm not worried. Like I said, I'm not worried about those guys leaving. I want those guys. I'll give you an example. One of our offensive lineman coaches got an opportunity on my team, and I was like, why are you still talking to me? Like, go. And he was like, well, I was still thinking about it. Like, I'm not going to hold you from any opportunity. Right? Good coaches want you to go and take those opportunities. Take those opportunities to get good. Like, you make me better. Right? You make my name better. Like, oh, they're doing a good job over there. Like, I want to do this. Like, we picked up a good person. So, like, I'm not worried about the coordinator thing. Now, when you bring in a new head coach and you got to change the whole system and you're changing the whole culture and you don't hire from within, that's when you start to worry a little bit, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, Coach. I mean, I think it's a fair point, but and this was reverse, right? I mean, so I acknowledge that this was a reverse culture, but look at Lincoln Riley with Alex Grinch and look at Lincoln Riley with Danton Lynn. So So I hear you. At the same time, I don't think it's that trivial either. Look at Danton Lynn, his first year at UCLA. Look at that UCLA defense the year before Danton Lynn got there, and then what Danton Lynn did. Look at the USC defense the year before Danton Lynn got there, and then look at last year. So, there are certain guys that are very special, and I think, but to your point, now has Lincoln built the hooks? Has he built the glue? Has he built the values? Has he built the behaviors where you can go now and attract the next Danton Lynn and the next, Chad Bowden, if and when that happens? Look, Chad Bowden's only been in the job for 8 months right now, so we're getting way, way ahead of ourselves. But I think, Coach, to sort of bring it back, it really all starts with this particular season. If you can get to 9-3 and flirt with the idea of a college football playoff, even if you miss it, and even if you lose the bowl game and you go 9-4, but you won all the games you were supposed to win, and you showed toughness in the defensive and offensive trenches, and you took games into the fourth quarter, and you took leads, and you finished some games, I think that's a significant building block then going into 2026 versus if you continue to sort of collapse in the trenches. Jaden Maeva doesn't have a very good year. You're a very shaky up and down 8-5. That's going to have a very different feeling in the offseason in terms of Lincoln Riley's job security going into 2026. So I think this is the great unknown, and everybody from Josh Pate to ESPN to Fox to CBS all are wondering, because the best version of USC, even this particular year, I think the ceiling could be very, very high. If you have a situation, Coach, like 2022, where the ball bounces your way and the ball finds you and the moments find you with this particular roster and this particular coaching staff, and you have that kind of good fortune that you did in 2022, who's to say 25 cannot be a magical year? It certainly can be. The question is, how realistic is that given the state of the roster? And I think the two great unknowns for me, Coach, is upside of this defensive line and what's Jaden Maeva going to give you. And that is such an unknown that to me it's sort of fair to keep SC unranked right now. But I think in the long term, it's going to be a good thing.
I'm not going to speak on Jaden Maeva because I'm pretty sure we'll say that for shows to come. I have my opinion, and I don't think people will like my opinion, but it is what it is, and I'm going to save that. I want to ask you this question before we wrap it up, and this is a good question. I really want you to ponder on this one.
Okay.
The past 3 years,
yeah,
right, and we talked about this. When Helton was there, the product on the field was not great, right? Over the past 3 years, do you think the product on the field has improved since Lincoln Riley has gotten there?
No. And here's why. I think the first year was all about Caleb's magic, and the ball bouncing our way, as we talked about. I think the second year came with the same playbook, but I think there was a disconnect, and we saw it between Caleb and his team for whatever reason. It's no one. We're not here to comment on whose fault or it's punitive in any way, but there was a disconnect, and clearly the scheme on the defensive side of the ball was really a concern. And, Caleb just didn't seem to have the same magic that he did in 2022. Not having Jordan Addison was the great difference between 2022 and 2023. We love to talk about Grinch, rightfully so. We love to talk about Caleb, rightfully so. The biggest difference between 2022 and 2023 was no Jordan Addison. And so that was sort of where that jump was. And then 24, Coach, I'll be honest with you. Yes, the defense improved incrementally, but the inability to close in the fourth quarter, the inability of the trenches to really hold up, and the shortcomings in terms of quarterback play. The quarterback play took a step back. When you sort of look at it net, I can't honestly, logically say the USC product in 2024 was better than the USC product in 2023. It was just different, and it was sort of equally inconsistent for different ways. So I have not seen an improved product on the field holistically. Now, if you want to just talk defense, obviously the jump from Grinch to Lynn was better incrementally, but holistically, as the overall product on the field, I can't honestly say that the product was better from 22 to 24.
I think my rebuttal will be, I think it has improved, but it doesn't move the margins a lot. And I'll tell you why. When Hilton was there and they had the one good year, right, he was like, okay, we want to watch. But most of Hilton's tenure there, it was kind of like, we know what's going to happen, right? We didn't want to watch. I think with this Lincoln Riley, with all these Lincoln Riley teams the past 3 years, we still want to watch. We want to see what's going to happen that day. I don't know if it's the great unknown or the question mark. What team are we going to get today? Or are we just interested in it now? That's me. Like, all right, I really want to watch this. I want to see what's going to happen. And more of me is like the great unknown. What team I'm going to get? I still remember the Maryland game to this day. It was Goose's birthday party. And Kenny was like, SC's playing Maryland. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And I was like, nope, never mind. They're in College Park. SC's going to lose. He was like, why do you say that? I'm like, they just suck on the road. And he was like, and then all of a sudden he's watching the game. He's more into it than me. He comes out, he's like, SC blew it. I was like, yeah, like, I know. Like, you know what I mean? I watched it, but it's like, you kind of knew, but it's like, maybe we won't get this team. Like, right? Do we get the SC that goes to Minnesota, or do we get the SC that goes to Michigan?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the great unknown, I think, that keeps us coming back. But it's better, but it's not like, oh, it's 9 out of 10 now. Before, right? With Hilton is 3 out of 10. With Riley right now, it's 5 out of 10. You know what I mean? It doesn't really move the margins on it, but something about it keeps us in front of the TV.
Yeah.
But Hilton, it did not keep us in front of the TV.
Well, Coach, and I'll close with this, and then you can wrap it up. I think there's a difference between the product being better on the field and having box office personalities. I think for better or for worse, even though Lincoln isn't a flashy guy, he's a box office personality. You know, when you get $100 million as your contract, when you have coached 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and when you have declared that your new spot is going to be the Mecca of college football, there is an inherent box office personality element in a way that Clay Helton was not, because Clay Helton was a great man, a very sweet man, a stoic man, sort of a simple personality who was there just to not get the program in trouble, given what the checkered past was the last few years, not just with the football program, but with the larger context of the university. Yeah. So to me, that's a different circumstance. You got one box office personality, and you got one guy who's sort of the substitute teacher who's just there to make sure, like, the school doesn't burn down, you know, but like he doesn't really have to do anything. So naturally, you're going to gravitate to that first guy. But this is what I'll close with, Coach. I think more than record and more than stats, what is going to help Lincoln in 2025 is that you see a definitively better product on the field. You could go 8-5. You could go 9-4. But if there is a definitively better product on the field in 2025 versus 2024, now you have momentum. And now you have something. And now he has gonna have more runway to sort of get to those prime years when he's got that elite talent.
I can't wait until October and we're talking about this. I would say, Jamal, how big is the runway? How big is the runway? I can't wait until there's 2 things. That one, and the other thing is, Jamal, even though your daughter tried hard and she got a B, you can't be upset at her. She still gave the effort. And you're going to be pissed. No, it has to be the A. I'm still holding on to that one for you. I'm still holding on to that one. She still gave the effort. As long as she gives the effort and she really tries, Jamal, then it's worth it. You can't get upset. But no, it's great, man. It's good to be back. I enjoy being back, man. It's time to talk ball. We're going to get into some deep stuff. Like, right, we still got to talk quarterback play, which for me is a question mark. We got to talk, where's this defense going up front, right? A lot of people are happy with the names, but is Stewart really that guy, right? There's a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we're here to talk about it We're here for the comments. We're here for the likes. We're back. You guys like, click, subscribe, and do everything you can. Madman, it's been a good one. Always, like always, I enjoyed our conversation. Great conversation with the Madman. Great conversation with you guys. We'll do this again. Until next time. You guys know how it goes. Been a long time. Live free. Fight on.